Hello, welcome to this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection. I'm your co-host, Jimmy Qualls, and with me as always, our co-host, our resident football expert, Tate Matthews. Tate, time is ticking away, man. 3 weeks away from the big week, which is Jamboree. But before we talk about Jamboree, let's talk about the rest of our teams. Last week, we got all the way up to Ravenwood. We still have Ravenwood and Summit. We had Summit's head coach in here. Let's give a shout out to
He did a great job.
Coach Coleman, man.
Yeah. Team.
Hey, I enjoyed that. Maybe we start doing that. We bring in we bring in a head coach, and we talk about everybody else's team but his own. How about that?
I think that's great. He gave great perspective.
And he really does.
Yep.
But better than we can give.
That's
and
right.
you know, you're looking at a scouting report talking about the weaknesses and pros of the other team. So it's pretty interesting.
He was probably happy not to talk about his team. He gets to talk about
he likes to stay
enough.
under the radar.
Yeah.
And given that, I saw him with my own 2 eyes in practice today. And this week is the first full week of pads. Obviously, everybody in the country knows that. Excited to get out there and watch a little bit of action. But I did go see him play. Saw a little bit of their quarterback throwing some balls. Man, I'm telling you, looks pretty good. Got a couple good athletes out there. It's going to be interesting to see how they mix it up, passes versus running plays. I even asked him, man, come on, how many passes are you really going to do?
And what was his answer?
He just kind of
they're going to run the ball.
rubbed his hands.
Yeah, they're going to run the ball. But the thing about it is you're referencing Ethan Cash, the sophomore quarterback. I think without a doubt it's his job. I don't want to speak for them, but I think he's the man. And he is. He brings a different dynamic. Big kid, strong arm. And so they're going to be able to do some different things in the passing game. Now, he's a sophomore, so he doesn't have the game experience that, say, Zakreski did last year, so they're going to have to be careful how they bring him around. But, yes, there's going to be a different dimension as far as the passing game goes. I don't know if it'll be Eric Coleman like we were talking about last year this time. But they're going to have to –
it's not going
no,
to be.
They're going to run the football. And when you got number 13 back there at running back, you probably should run the football. But there will be a different dimension. But, they're going to have to bring this thing along slowly because, like I said, he is a sophomore. He's a very talented sophomore, but he's a sophomore.
Well, before we get into Old Sparty, let's talk about Ravenwood. Right now, the jury's out. Nobody has a clue. They're under the radar. Very smart move, strategic move, if you ask me, Coach Daniels. Take his group. They go to team camp up in Kentucky, do some team building things there. They're coming back. Now they're on the field doing pads. Nobody really knows what's going to happen right now with the Raptors. Losing some players last year, big guy Patrick Lighton, obviously going to Duke, McCain Morrow, Connor Dotson, Tavian Mills, Taj Williams, good player on both sides of the ball. Carter Nelson ran the ball really good last year. So what do we know at this point in time about Matt Daniels and the Ravenwood Raptors?
Well, first of all, I really like Matt Daniels. I did not know him that well last year. Gotten to know him, obviously, a lot better now that he's the head coach. I like him. I like the enthusiasm that he brings. And it just feels like there's a lot of excitement within the locker room on the practice field. I really like that. I think, I think that's what they're used to there. So, I think he's hit the ground running. I think you would agree with that as well. Defensively, you're going to pretty much see the same thing that you saw last year. Offensively, they're still going to be fast-paced. They're going to still spread it out a little bit more than some teams. But, there will be some wrinkles that you'll see differently. Obviously, McCain Morrow, once he got going, as far as an arm, he might have had the best arm in the sport, in the county, in the district, in the regions last year. He's moving on. Got a three-headed battle going on with that right now. Nick Stallcup, the senior, I would think that he's probably the leader in the clubhouse on that one. But he's a senior. He can do a lot of different things well, and he can run the offense. Brian Garcia is in this mix, a young man who can really throw the ball. Probably of the three guys battling out, he's probably the best passer. And then you've got Seth Erickson, the point guard of the basketball team, athletic kid. You're going to see all three of them. I would think that with Nick being a senior and some of the things that he does, I would think that you'll probably see him to start off with, but you're going to see all three of them right now. And then if you look at the end of the year, the last part of the season going into the playoffs, when they figured out they needed to run the ball, right, at the end of the year, and, man, they went on that run. Carter Nelson was I don't know how anybody was any more valuable than him in the playoffs and then the last couple games of the season. So I think that's something that they think they need to be able to build off of. They still want to run the ball as well. Anthony Holmes is going to be a big part of that, junior tailback. He got to play some last year. I know Coach Daniels and the staff, they think this guy's got a chance to be really, really special. All he really needs is reps and snaps. So you're going to see a heavy dose of him. And then there's also, when you're talking about it, you got the sophomore Jordan Smith. He was a freshman who got some carries and some play time last year. He will be a big part of it. And then Cameron Shear. You'll see all three of those running the ball. But I think they feel pretty good about where they are, considering how much they have to replace, which you just mentioned.
Well, if you look at their last year's record, they finished regular season 5-5. It's like you said, they were still trying to find their identity, what kind of offense they were going to run. If you remember early, came out of the gates with a win at Siegel, good win for them. Start off 1-0, running the spread, trying to do a lot of pro look style offenses. Didn't quite click for them. Figured out Carter getting in there, running the ball like he did second half of the season. Then they go run heavy. 5-5 finished regular season, win round 1. Win round 2. Now they're sitting at 7-5. They get into round 3 with a shot to try to get into the state semis, which if you think about it, 6A level is pretty hard to imagine. Get beat by Cordova 42-16 to finish out the season 7-6 in 6A play. Now, nothing changes. Region 6, still in Region 6, 6A. Brentwood, Centennial, Dixon, Franklin, Independence, Ravenwood. Good news is that group is back together. Bad news is
that group is back together.
they're back together.
Those are all region games now.
If you look at this, let's just talk openly for a second on this. You've got 5 teams that they have to face. They make the 6th. Only 4 get in the playoffs. You have to automatically assume, I hate to do this because I think they can win on any given night, but you have to automatically assume Dixon's going to have a hard time getting in one of those top 4 spots.
I would think so.
Okay. So now that leaves one WCS Sports Conference team that's going to be outside looking in. Now, I'm not asking you to pick that today, may in the near future, but where does Ravenwood fit in this whole group? Let's just look at their schedule real quick. And we've talked about how difficult week 1 is for everybody. Here's Centennial. Right now, Centennial, kind of a dark horse pick. Nobody knows how good they're going to be. Nobody gave them credit last year before the season.
Right.
They finished 11-2. Nobody's giving them probably a whole lot of credit this year. I think week 1 is going to be very telling for me and probably a lot of people who could possibly potentially be in that 4 or 5 slot.
Oh, without a doubt. This is a huge game for both of them. And you mentioned the identity, not knowing on the identity, what they're going to be about in offense last year, the first part of the year. That's not going to be a problem this year. They know what they want to be about. So that's another thing that I think is a real plus for Ravenwood this year. They know, and Coach Daniels was on the staff last year, so he knows these guys. You see what I'm saying? So I think they're ahead of the curve there. But really, I think these two are kind of really similar. It's different, but they both brought a lot of big people back that were important, but they lost a lot of people. It's just different on Centennial's side. They have the bulk of their skill players coming back. Now they lost Devious and I mean Centurion and some people like that, but they've got Tavion back and they've got Jariel back. They've got Trey Stewart, their quarterback, back. But look at the linemen they lost, which we mentioned last week. Nick Bell and Eli Katina. They lost their line. What is our offensive line going to be like? It's the kind of the flip side on the Ravenwood side. They lost so much of their skill positions. They think, the guys we just mentioned, they think they can step up and fill those shoes and be really good players. But are they going to be ready on 8/18? So I think Centennial and Ravenwood are kind of right under maybe Brentwood and Independence. They're not anybody that I think anybody wants to face, but I think if you have to face one of these two teams early in the year would probably be better because there's a lot of question marks for both of them.
So if you look at their schedule real quick, this is a very eclectic schedule for Ravenwood, probably different than they've ever had in the history of the school. Open up with Centennial at home, play Siegel at home, and then play Franklin at home. So the first 2 of the first 3 games are going to be huge, huge contests for them as far as Region 6 goes. Then they go to Page. Pretty sure, I have to check the record books, that Ravenwood has never been to Page before. They play at Page. Then they go to Brentwood for the Battle of the Woods, play at Father Ryan. Interesting mix. What's the history there? Give us the history lesson on the coaches there.
Well, Brian Rector's the head football coach of Father Ryan, who obviously was technically Jack Daniels was the first head football coach of Ravenwood, but he turned that thing over to Brian about week 2 of fall camp. So Brian was the first head coach at Ravenwood. Was there a long time, won a lot of games, state championship and a 5A. Won a 5A state championship, 6A, because they went up in class. runner-up. And so, I think it's just so tough in 6A football for these Williamson County schools to find games. It's so hard. I mean, you'll get to it here in a second. They're playing Ray County. They're not playing Ray County because they wanted to do a home and home all the way to East Tennessee. That's what they had to do to find games. So Father Ryan's here. The private schools obviously have a hard time scheduling games. I think that's where that came from. Two people that they know are going to do things the right way, and that's where it came from. Interesting. It'll be pretty neat. Sometimes playing on the turf is a little bit different. Brentwood will have the turf next year. Father Ryan has turf. They'll play back-to-back games on the turf in the middle of the year.
So then they follow up the Father Ryan game with game at Dixon, Ray County, as you spoke of earlier, bye week. Interesting game before the last game, which is at Fairview.
Right.
To take Ravenwood, a 6A program, down to Fairview, not certain that there's been this large of a classification team ever step foot at Fairview. That will be interesting, interesting for the Fairview community. They're going to turn out for this game with a chance and a hope to knock off one of the Big Six schools. They always talk about that.
Well, and Page too. So you look at the schedule; it's a tough schedule, and then both Page and Fairview, they're gonna, they're gonna be playing the underdog role. We're the little guy. Nobody's giving us a chance. Both of those schools would love nothing more than to pick off one of the Big Six. And can you imagine if Fairview's undefeated going into that game? They won't have enough seats.
You're right. And then can you imagine if your playoff hopes come down to your last week of your schedule and who you face? Independence. Who, I don't want to go out on a limb here and start picking every team and where they're going to finish, but I'm pretty sure that Independence will not be playing for their playoff lives at that point in time. Well, but you never know.
That's right. And it just goes to show, that Centennial game for both of them is so important. Someone's going to start off the season 1-0. But more importantly, they're going to start off the season in the region 1-0, and one's going to start off 0-1. And then you got Siegel, who I think is going to be improved, and then you got a huge game with Franklin. That Centennial and Franklin game, very important.
We'll talk about all the Week 1 games in just a minute. Summit, Old Sparty, 7-4 last year, made first round of the playoffs, had an opportunity to win that thing, was leading 21-0 at halftime, ended up getting beat 35-21. We talked about that a little bit last week with Coach Coleman. We knew that Cane Ridge was one of the favorite 5A teams in the state. Second half, playing styled team that comes from behind, does a really good job. They just couldn't hold on. But to think about where Summit has come in the last 5 years of existence in that school, what Coach Coleman has done, 7-4 above 500, first home win, first region win, first playoff appearance. It just keeps going and going. Prediction, we predicted last year, to add to the resume of the firsts, this year will be the first playoff win in Summit history. I
think they can do it. And remember, Coach Coleman didn't start the school off. So and Coach Kiesler and his staff laid the foundation. But then when Coleman and them came in, they totally different offense. So really they outside of in the weight room and starting off with freshmen, they really started from square one when he got there. So
and you got to think his first year did not win a game.
Right.
Leaves Riverdale as an assistant at a high-profile program, takes a Chapel Hill job in Forest, does good.
Yeah.
Above 500, doing well.
Games.
Right. Takes Summit, finally gets an opportunity at a higher-level school in Williamson County, and goes over. Now, I know there's plenty of nights he's sitting around, I can't believe I left and did this and this. And a lot of people could have mailed it in.
Yeah.
Keeps his staff intact, keeps applying the same foundation, the same thought processes, and eventually it's going to pay off. The next year they win 2 or 3 games, and then here they are, 7-4 in the playoffs, 21-point lead first half against Cane Ridge, the chance to go on. And I've been there as a coach. If a kid has never been at that level, playoff level, it is hard to duplicate mentally what you're supposed to do to finish off teams against those teams that have been there. Now that they've been there, now that they know the mistakes and how to correct those mistakes, I really firmly believe if they can get an opportunity to get into that game again, they'll win.
Yeah. Well, and again, when the playoff pairings came out, remember we talked, and I thought, man, that was the one thing I hated to see. I thought that was just a tough matchup for them because like we said, I think Cane Ridge was, outside of Independence, probably the second best 5A program. So, and they had a quarterback, DJ Thorpe, who could just do so many things. So they had so many guys playing both ways, and if they could have just gotten one more touchdown in that first half, or maybe got one when they first came out of the third quarter, and then they just ran out of time. They didn't have enough. There was too much time left for Cane Ridge with all the athletes they had, and they could spread them out. And once they got tired, that quarterback was going to be able to make plays with his arm and his feet. So, again, being up 21-0 on them, I thought was unbelievable. But, you come back this year and you learn from, and that just goes to show how important the regular season is. One of those losses that they let go earlier in the year last year, maybe they don't play Cane Ridge. So, yeah, I think there's without a doubt the momentum's there and the foundation's laid. And, again, we're breaking in a new quarterback. We're replacing, three of the four-headed monster back in the backfield. But the great thing is you got Ty Carter back, and he is, like we talked about last year, he is a game changer. He's a guy. He's the one guy in that program for the past couple of years. If he gets loose, an 8-yard game just became a 30, 40, 50, 60-yard game. And got to keep him healthy and got to find ways to get him the ball.
If he can find two guys that can catch the ball outside of Ty Carter.
I think Jatavion Hayes can do it.
Yes, saw him. Matter of fact, during that practice time I was out there, and
you'll see him. And then I've not seen them in the pads yet. Obviously, this is the first week in the pads, but I saw him in a couple 7-on-7s. Nick Johnson, the tight end, big kid, can run, has good hands. I think you'll see him in the passing game as well.
If they can get just a little bit of pressure off Ty Carter on the outside, you're going to have to mix it up. Going to have to mix up a little bit of the wing tee to make it look like possibly handouts to get him out into the bubble, to get him out into the flat. You're going to have to disguise a lot of things to get to him, because if you just line him up straight receiver, what's going to happen? They're going to shade to his side.
That's
double
right.
team. He'll never get the ball.
Right.
So you're going to have to. They'll have to mask it, mix it up, even them out to keep the defense on their toes. Even amount of runs to try to offset everything. And if they could ever get going throwing wise, and I think they can after what I saw too, with the new quarterback. And he had a good 7-on-7 as well. Now, I understand that's not with pads.
Right.
And that's not against a defensive line. But if they could ever get going and have an even match of run and passing, I think they got a shot, because they're going to have to make up 1,500 yards regardless on the ground from last year.
Right. And that's Dalton Fisher's gone, Tyler Palmer's gone, Christian Snyder's gone. They're going to have the way they run this offense. That's one of the big keys. Who are going to be the guys to step in and fill that role? Because you can't just give it to one guy in this offense. And remember, he's going to have to play defense too in the tight games, which there's no easy ones on here. But in the tight games, and they're going to have to figure out a way to balance it. But when it comes, I'm trying to think of a different word. When it becomes serious time, he's going to have to be on there in the defensive backfield as well. So we're going to have to find 2-3 guys that can carry the load running the ball. But yes, going to have to be innovative in the ways that they get Ty Carter touches. That's the important thing. He needs touches.
Summit finishes 7-4, Region 5A play. They're still in Region 5, 5A. So let's look at the schedule real quick, what they have. First week at Spring Hill. That's always a big game between Summit and Spring Hill, the Murray County right there on the line. Spring Hill, obviously, not a pushover anymore. They have some high D1 commits and looks, guys that are getting looks over there. Speak real quick on Spring Hill.
Well, they've got a running back, Dante Smith. Obviously, he's going to Georgia Tech. As of right now, he's going to Georgia Tech. He's the top returning rusher in the mid-state from last year. He had over 2,000 yards. The guy can play.
That's big time.
That is big time. And he can run. He's fast. He's kind of like Ty. You give him a seam, it's not going to be an 8-yard game. It's going to be, do we hawk him down before he goes to the end zone? So you're going to see a heavy dose of him. But, so just right there, you're going to see two top-notch athletes on the field at the same time. But Coach Jay Emmons, he's a defensive guy. We mentioned had been on Centennial's staff before he took over there. They're going to be well coached. Hey, this is going to be one of these deals where what's going to happen on Friday nights? There's sometimes going in, we'll be able to out-scheme these guys. We'll be able to out-game plan these guys. You're not going to be able to do that with Spring Hill, and Spring Hill's not going to be able to do it with Summit. So whoever comes out of this game victorious is going to have to play well. And I think the number one key is who does a better job of bottling up the other one's stud.
Week 1 at Spring Hill. Week 2, Independence at home for the border battle. Week 3 at White County. Week 4, interesting, at Nolensville. If they could come in 3-1, 4-0, playing against Nolensville, specifically 4-0. Let's say they beat Indy in the border battle. First time ever in history that they beat Independence. Not sure this is year, but regardless, 3-1, 4-0. If they come into that game against Nolensville, that could have some interesting storylines for that game as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be huge. And kind of like we were talking about with Fairview and Ravenwood or Page and Ravenwood, Coach Hester's going to he'll start on Sunday night. He'll have David versus Goliath. And but you would hope, if you're a Summit fan, that's where only being in the weight room for 2 years as opposed to their seniors been in the weight room for 4 years. You would hope the weight room would play into that.
Play Columbia. Then they have Page at home, Franklin County at Franklin County. This is a game that I've marked right here. There's 2 games in particular. One is very meaningful. The other one is meaningful psychologically, but it doesn't hurt you on the record books. One is at Shelbyville. I just feel like that is a very important game for them to have an opportunity to win Region 5A. That's a game they're going to have.
Without a doubt, it's a region game. It's on the road, and remember.
And Page is a region game this year for the first time ever, too.
That's right.
We overlooked that game.
And they scored, 71 points against Shelbyville last year?
Right.
You got to think Shelbyville is saying, hey, whatever we got to do, we got to fix that this year. So you ought to have some confidence going into that, but Shelbyville is going to try to make sure that doesn't happen again this year. It would be hard to score 71 points again, I would think. So. But, yeah, huge game. That Franklin County game is going to be a huge game because Franklin County is going to be better. Now, I don't know how much better, but they're going to be better.
Then you have Centennial, which is, like I said, a big game, confidence game for those guys to go and play a Big Six school. And then you finish out with Lincoln County. So let's look at the region rundown for those guys. Columbia, Franklin County, Lincoln County, Page, Shelbyville, White County, Summit. 7 teams, 4 slots. Who gets left out?
In that one? White County.
You got 3 teams that are going to be left out.
White County,
Columbia,
Lincoln County, Columbia.
I would agree with that. You think Franklin County gets in?
Yeah.
You think Summit gets in? You think Page gets in? You think Shelbyville? That's your top 4 spots. Would you like to go any further with that?
No, we'll do that. We're going to need that
okay.
for another show.
You have to join us for another show. Yeah.
That's right.
But
tease them.
It's interesting though. Those 3 schools, and we probably agree on that. But
you look at that district. I mean, I think they have a strong chance of winning that region.
Absolutely.
I know I say district. I keep getting.
But you're right. I think that Summit will be a favorite going into this region play right here, as well as Page will be a strong suitor as well. I mean, Shelbyville. I think Shelbyville and Summit right now, if you just went on the streets and asked, would probably be your 2 favorites to have a chance to win it. Page bumping up from 4A to 5A.
If they stay healthy, I think they get in.
If they stay healthy and they get in, going from 4A to 5A, that is a tremendous year for them. I mean, that's really good stuff, talking about those guys going from 4A to 5A and getting in. Now, let's talk about the Jamboree real quick. Cool event coming up, Tate. Can't wait for it to happen. August 11th at Nolensville High School. Fastest show on turf. We got 5 games ready to go. We blind drew for who's going to play who. Walker Chevrolet's giving away not 1 but 2 cars, Tate. An opportunity to win 2 nice vehicles. I believe it's a Chevy Traverse and a Chevy Malibu. Pass, punt, kick for a field goal. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's great. Are we allowed to enter?
I
need to be working on my punting.
It would void your contract.
Oh, okay. Well, that's going to be exciting,
it would void
man.
You're good to go. I'm going to put you in it. But I think we need to go out there head-to-head, me and you, see who can get the closest.
I think it would be awesome. We need to do that.
Pull a hammy.
I think you'd be able to sell some tickets to that.
Probably so. But, it's interesting. It gives everybody a thought that they have a chance.
Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding me? And those new Malibus are sweet.
They are very nice. All right, let's talk about the games. Nolensville versus Centennial at 4 o'clock. Interesting game. First time they've played anybody from WCS for real for a half. What do you think?
Well, Centennial's not going to want to show much because Ravenwood's going to be there watching it. Hester's going to try to build some momentum and some confidence. Can they tackle Jerry O. Wilson? They haven't seen anything like my man. It's going to be pretty. It's going to be vanilla on one side, and the visor's going to be flinging it everywhere.
All right, second game at 5 o'clock, Summit versus Ravenwood.
Neither one of them is going to show anything.
So you're going It's going to be belly left, belly right. Coach Coleman will get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
Laser, razor, left, right. Third game of the night. This is an interesting matchup right here.
Yeah.
I think that the crowd prior to 6 o'clock will stick around just enough to get a little glimpse.
Well, let's put it this way. You're going to have four stars.
Big time.
4 stars on the field at the same time.
Right. You've got Blackman versus Independence at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. 2 totally different teams.
Does the Blade Runner come out and say, you know what, we're gonna send a message early? I can't see him coming out and laying up.
No, yeah, that's not in his personality. So the only thing, Independence opens up with Oakland. You know, Oakland's probably going to be in the stands if they're not in a jamboree of their own. But yeah, I think they try to toss it around on them a little bit. And hey, what a great test! They're going to see the running game against Oakland the very next Friday. It's going to be different, but what better test than Master Teague? You're going to have, like I said, you're going to have the 2 Independence receivers are now decommits of UT, but they were at one time this would have been 2 UT commits, an Ohio State commit, and then Trey Knox he can go wherever he wants.
And I still think that Troy, before it's over with,
That's right.
may not be a 3 or 4 star guy, but I still think he gets some.
He might
offers.
have a little chip on his shoulder too.
I hope he does.
About Master.
Hope he does. Fairview versus Franklin, first time in WCS history. These two
Hughes comes out running and gunning, trick playing.
We've got the hook and ladder, the halfback pass, you name it, we're bringing it out.
That's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun to watch that. And last is Page versus Brentwood. Not sure that they've played. I think that they might have played way back when Page might have opened, but we're talking years ago.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You can get tickets
2
right
really
now.
good quarterbacks right there, Van Lanningham and Shacklet
Carson
and Dreyer, but
Dryer's
more
moved to
Shacklet.
H-back.
That's right.
It's
Well,
full-time
I think there's going to be
Shack
a package.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think we'll see that. Yeah,
Little Wildcat,
Dreyer. Hopefully, Dryer's the next LeBreche.
You understand that he's also committed here recently to Sanford in baseball.
Yeah.
Good catcher, man. GoFan.co is where you can get your tickets. Get them online right now. They are going like hotcakes, man.
Who's leading right now? Do you know?
At last glance, it was Franklin. Franklin Centennial were 1 and 2, so I have to go back and check. So all proceeds go to the football programs. Join us on August 11th. GoFan.co. Type in Williamson County Sports Conference, and you will see those tickets there. Week 1, we're running out of time, but we're going to talk about Week 1 real quick. Battle of 840. Week 1. We've got Brentwood at Franklin. You've got Centennial at Ravenwood. You've got Franklin, Brentwood. We've already mentioned that. Sorry. Independence at Oakland. Nolensville, Fayetteville, Page at Fairview in the 840 game. Summit and Spring Hill. Lots of good action in Week 1.
Great games, big games. Indy, Oakland, probably if you're just a fan, not hearing this sports conference, probably Indy, Oakland, the most anticipated game, I think, for the casual high school football fan. Fayetteville, Nolensville. Nolensville gets their first varsity win.
Book it. He's called it. He's called it here first. You've heard it. I think the WCTV game of the week will be Brentwood High School at Franklin High School, which I think will be a phenomenal showdown. You want to talk about a hard seat to get. That night will be a hard seat to find a good seat in the Franklin, at the Franklin field. You got Battle of 840. It's like you said, I mean.
Here's what's going to be interesting. The last 2 teams in the Battle of 840, the road team wins. Is this year they break the curse? Can Page win at home, right? It is at Page.
No, it's not.
It's at Fairview. That's right.
Fairview. They had to flip.
At Fairview, can the home team win this year? History shows being the home team's not real good in this,
Robert. It's not fared well for them.
Brentwood, Franklin, I mean, if you go back the past really 15 years.
Well, hang on, stand corrected. Fairview did win a last-second kick last year.
At home.
55 yards.
That's
yes.
right.
55
That's right.
yards.
That was last year they did it.
We'll have to wait and see. As we get closer to time, we're going to start making our predictions. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
It's Country Pride countywide at the Williamson County Fair, returning August 4th through 12th. This year, there's a special memorial honoring the brave men and women who gave their lives in the War on Terror. Be sure to stop by and pay tribute. Returning attractions include all-time favorites such as Little Ones Farming, children's barnyard, livestock shows, and fireworks displays. New this year, you'll find a high dive show, an exciting wild science exhibit, and much more. Check out WilliamsonCountyFair.org and show your country pride countywide.